Well, welcome everyone to our talk today on branding or products. We now start our run through the 4 P's of marketing. This is our very first. We cover the other 3 P's of marketing as we go through the remaining weeks in the course. So not far to go now in the course itself. We only have 5 weeks left of the course, and we'll be covering the major elements of marketing, wrapping up with your marketing plan, of course. And for some of you attending the on-campus offering of the course, you'll of course be doing a final exam which will be action-packed, full of excitement and fun. I'm looking forward to it as much as you are, undoubtedly. So let's kick off. So going through what we're looking at today, as I said, we're looking at branding and products. So here we are in the course, looking at creating the value proposition, and an important part of it is indeed doing branding. And before we start any talk about product as an element of marketing, it's important to understand what we mean by a product and the product concept itself. So a product is anything tangible or intangible that satisfies customers' needs as a result of an exchange process. There's the definition for you. Now, we talk about tangible and intangible a lot in this chapter, and in fact what it really means is tangible is something we can hold, touch and feel, like this bottle here. It's a nice product. Oh, it's got ANU on it. Oh, look at that. And you can hold it, touch it, feel it. So it's tangible for that reason. Intangible is a service element like this lecture you're currently watching. You can't touch it or hold it or feel it, but you can most definitely see it and hear it. Let's hope anyway. So there we go. That's a big difference to look at. The lines became blurred now in marketing. Back in the day, it used to be a nice differentiation between product. So the product, a tangible product, was the 4 P's of marketing, and a intangible or a service was the 7 P's of marketing, the additional elements being physical evidence, process and people. But now the line's becoming very, very blurred between what is a tangible product and what is an intangible product. So there is a big difference between tangible and intangible in a theory sense, but in a practical one you might actually find it very, very difficult to differentiate. So it's something to keep note of and be aware of. For the course though, you only have to do the 4 P's of marketing. You don't need to do the additional 3 elements of marketing. If we did that, we'd be here until this time next year, which I'm sure everyone apart from me would not like that much. Okay, kicking off through the product layers. Now, this is an important concept, and for those people doing the final exam, it is worth noting for your study purposes. We have this concept called the 3 layers of a product, or 3 levels of a product. We have core, actual, and augmented. Core is what you actually are buying the product for, so everything you're after in a product. The actual products are what makes up that product itself, so the actual parts or ingredients, as it were. And augmented is all the additional supporting features which help further differentiate the product. Here's a nice example. This is an example of a car. Simple, I'm sure everyone can relate to it, or let's hope so. And we can see here the core product of a car: transportation. It could be carrying cargo, luggage, like my car does. My car carries everything. Excitement for those young at heart, maybe going through your midlife crisis. Hello, Porsche. Or fans of Top Gear. Now, who doesn't like Top Gear? Well, sorry, the old Top Gear now that Jeremy Clarkson and friends have disappeared. We also can have a car for image or status enhancement, like I own a Ferrari, I must have money. The actual product of a car could be things like engine size, color, design, all that type of thing. And augmented, you can see here, could be the warranty, repair, maintenance, which is really important nowadays considering how cars are becoming like computer printers, where the actual hardware cost is very low, but the ongoing maintenance of the product itself is very high, and that's where the profit is. Installation, customer support services, delivery, credit, and product use instructions. Okay, moving away from that theory into how we might classify products by category of use We also have a category of durable goods, so something which might last a long time, to non-durable goods, which a lot of people often associate with what we call FMCG, or fast-moving consumer goods, or things you might buy in Coles and Woolies. Again, the line here is becoming quite blurred as product use changes over time, so it's worth noting with these categories and definitions that they can become blurred in practice. Again, the theory is very distinct, but the practice is often different. So it's worth noting those differences between theory and practice. Classifying products continued. Well, what this slide's all about is talking about other classifications of products into convenience products, shopping, specialty, or unsought. Now, convenience products are usually low priced, as the name would suggest, by being convenience. So something you might find in a convenience store like 7-Eleven or a store like that, and don't really require much thought. So back to your consumer behavior model here, they will be a low involvement product. Now, shopping products are where consumers spend suitable time and effort gathering information and comparing alternatives. So in other words, stuff you might find in Westfield Mall here in Canberra, or your shopping mall wherever part of the world you happen to be in. Specialty is more unique, and if anything, looking at this, you can see how it also relates to the involvement and risk level to the consumer. So we're starting off with the low risk, which is convenience products, and then progressing all the way to the high risk through unsought products. So specialty is more unique, might be something special you might buy occasionally. It could be, for example, like a car, all the way to perhaps now after that unsought products where you don't have any attention or interest in the product itself until all of a sudden becomes important to you as a consumer. An example could be buying an engagement or wedding ring, for example. Okay, B2B products, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on B2B, and this being the style lecture, obviously it ain't going to happen, but B2B products, worth noting for those people who might be doing it, how it might be classified according to different categories, and you can see them on the screen there. Worth going through this aspect in the textbook if again you have an interest in B2B marketing. So, developing new products. It is a lengthy process, although in this day and age, some people can take a lot less time than others. So with applications on your smartphone, for example, or apps, they can come and go so quickly because of the speed it can take to design and build an app is nowadays very, very short. So look at how you can develop new products and design new products all the time, and how this might be reflected upon how you might then think about the use of technology we have now in marketing. And we have this product development phase here. So it's a 7-step process. You go through all these different steps here to understand how important it is to develop a product. It is a step to go through to make sure that there is a need for the product in the first place, and that by the time you take it into the market, into commercialization, that in fact people do want to buy your product from you. So again, look at table 8.1 here in the textbook, what I just put up in the previous slide, and understand how these things can relate to innovation and the difference between new product and an innovation, because there can be a difference in each one. An innovation is defined as a product that consumers perceive to be new and different from existing products. It is estimated that between 1/3 and 1/2 of new products fail. So this is interesting to look at in terms of how these things happen and how it may come about. But understand what an innovation is. Types of innovations. So innovations vary in their degree of newness, and this helps determine how quickly the product will be adopted. So we have continuous innovations, dynamically continuous innovations, and discontinuous innovations. Again, it is worth noting this slide down for those people who might be considering study for the final exam. It is a good question to look at, is the types of innovations out there and how companies can try and build their brand and their relationship up with consumers by using one of these types of innovations with their products. So definitely consider this slide as something to learn in the future. The adoption and diffusion process. Now look, today I'm going to be honest with you, everyone out there. Hope that wake you up. I have to be honest with all of you out there in the internet land right now. There is a lot, heaps of theory to cover for this week. The thing about this chapter, and in fact a lot of this course, is that we can only cover these big theories very briefly, but you need to know them to understand what marketing is. When you look at a product like this and you can see all the theories happening all at once, the entire marketing process in a product as simple as this, it's good for you to understand why that might be and what makes it successful. So adoption and diffusion process. How we adopt a product is very important, of course, because that's usually the final step in the marketing process, is you adopting the product as a consumer. That's what we aim to do in marketing, is get you to adopt and develop loyalty towards the product, so that way you keep on buying the product time and time again. Diffusion is by how far that product adoption will spread through a population. So yes, adoption is important, but how far does it go through a population? That's the next question we like to ask. And in some cases, you can narrow, of course, make this specific to your segment. So if you're targeting a segment, how much of your segment is liable to adopt your product? That's very important to the overall success of your product for obvious reasons. So it's another point to consider when it comes to examining something in context of your marketing plan. So this is the adoption pyramid here. It lets you know what we try and do in marketing as a process and what we might aim for. We have awareness, interest, evaluation, trial, adoption, and confirmation. It's one of these classic marketing models where you start off with awareness being very, very broad, so a wide part of the market could have awareness of your product. But at the very end of it, you can see only a small percentage of that market who are aware of you will actually confirm and be loyal towards your product in their purchasing behavior. So it's something to consider as well for the overall success of your product when it comes to your marketing plan, is that very, very few people who are aware of you will actually at the end of the day confirm and buy your product all the time. The stage in the adoption of a new product, we talked about this a little bit beforehand with the previous slide. So again, look at how you can build someone adopting your product, and each of these steps should be a point with marketing strategy for you to look at trying to encourage the consumer to adopt your product. So with your overall marketing strategy, and you may not have the chance to cover all of this in your assignment, of course, you may want to consider whereabouts you are in the pyramid, and therefore what marketing activities you need to really be focusing on to progress consumers through this pyramid. You may not get people all the way through it. I'll go back to the previous slide here. So you may not get everyone through from awareness all the way to confirmation very, very quickly. It could be a lengthy process, and you must be prepared for that. So also consider the decision-making time by your consumer. The involvement level of your product by the consumer will influence how quickly someone progresses through this pyramid. So the adopter categories. Now we have categories here of adoption. We have innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. Now, this is the slide I really want you to focus on. Figure 8.4. You can see here we start off with innovators, move to early adopters, then the early majority, late majority, and laggards. Now, the thing to note about figure 8.4 is that each of us will vary where we fit into this pyramid here, or this graph, by product category. So for some product categories, we'll be in the innovators. For other product categories, we might be in the late majority or even laggards. It'll be dependent upon who we are as consumers. What you need to do with your marketing is, if you're going after someone to adopt your product in a new product category, is target the innovators, because as you can see, once you get the innovators on board, you can get the early adopters, and then that leads on to the early majority, and then we're talking about sustainability. So for a lot of brands out there, it's very important for them to raise awareness with the innovators more than it is the other categories on that table there in front of you. So what they try and do is target all their marketing at the innovators and early adopters to get them into the early majority. So a lot of effort goes into making consumers in those first two categories adopt and confirm the product, because that way it can lead on to further diffusion into the marketplace. I hope this is making sense. It's a really important concept to understand when it comes to modern marketing. Now, I used to ask this as an exam question. What are the 5 factors which influence the rate of product adoption? We have the 5 here: relative advantage, compatibility, complexity, observability, and trialability. So it's an important slide to look at, because these 5 factors have an important role in who and how your product is adopted. So look at these different factors here, and any big product which has come out in the last few years has succeeded because they've managed to do these factors quite well. And the adoption rate factors here, looking at how each of them might relate to, in this case, Wi-Fi, and how we might actually look at how they might have helped consumers out, is table 8.2. You can see how each of those different factors help the adoption of Wi-Fi, to the point now where we take Wi-Fi for granted, and in fact, if we go somewhere without Wi-Fi on our devices, we tend to get a little bit needy and depressed because I can't use my phone. Where's my phone? So we have to talk to people. Shock horror. But anyway, what you need to understand, again, with a slide like this, is how it applies to your product in context, which is how can you make people adopt your product more easily by using marketing methods and techniques. And that's what you need to consider for your marketing plan. Okay, product line strategies. Now, this is where you look at the product line strategy itself. So product line is a company's total offering designed to satisfy a single need. Nice definition. So in other words, the product line is everything they offer to the marketplace. Okay, so the length of the product line is the number of separate items it offers on the product line itself. So how long is it? And a large number of variations of product line therefore is known as a full line. An upward line strength adds higher quality products, downward adds lower quality products, and cannibalization is when sales of existing products are eaten up by a new product that the company introduces. A great example of cannibalization is how Qantas introduced the Jetstar brand into the domestic market to compete against Virgin, even though they knew that that would mean that Qantas domestic brand would lose some of its sales to Jetstar. So hopefully that makes sense on understanding the product line strategy. Again, context for you is how big should your product line be? Should it be quite long and quite full, or should it be short and narrow and focus just on a specific set of customers and defined segment? It'll all depend upon, of course, your customer and your segment. Now, looking at how that also might be translating to product objectives overall, here in figure 8.5, we have individual products and multiple products. Now, individual products, we introduce new products into the marketplace. It might be a regional product, so restricted to a geographic area, or you can even be looking at ways we can increase enthusiasm for a mature product through perhaps new product uses, or even nostalgia, like how Polaroid have now tried to tap into the nostalgia effect of their product. With multiple products which we may offer to the marketplace, we can look at product line extensions, we can stretch, fill and contract, and a product mix in itself is we can increase the width of the product mix. There's different things you can do here as a strategy just based on this one slide in itself. This is what I mean about marketing. There is so much to learn and embrace, and different areas of theory you can apply just by themselves as a simple strategy. So product mix strategies. Now looking at this as a nice separate point, as I talked about in the previous slide, a product mix is the total set of all products that a company sells. The number of different product lines produced is known as the width of the product mix. So in other words, if you're a car company, maybe you don't just do cars, you decide to widen your product mix by introducing motorbikes and trucks. So now what you've done, instead of having just cars, you've got trucks and motorbikes, and all of a sudden you have a wider product mix. Now, of course, your product line then can be very narrow on just a few select categories, but then you might lengthen the product line itself by offering lots of different trucks, cars, and motorbikes. Hopefully this is all making sense to you. Some people find this hard to understand. Hopefully I'm not making it more difficult. Hopefully this is more simple now for you to understand how this applies in practice. So one of the other big theories again for this week, and there are a lot for this week. I do apologize. No, I don't. You've got to learn them. Come on. Embrace your learning. Is product life cycle, PLC. Now, figure 8.6 in the textbook is quite closely related to the previous slide here on adopters. So if you compare figure 8.4 and 8.6 next to each other, you'll notice a nice correlation. So what we have here with the product life cycle is the introduction stage. Now, you don't make any profits at this stage. You're introducing the product. Remember, you're going after the innovators of the categories of adopters. So you won't make any money off those because they're so small a number, but they're very, very important to then launch yourself into the growth stage, which is the early majority. Now, when you get to the late majority, people adopting your product, you're normally at the maturity stage of your life cycle where sales will peak because now you've got most of the people in. And after that, you start to go into the decline stage with the product, where the laggards usually come into the marketplace and start to buy your product because they notice that it's been sold at a very cheap price. It is a very big theory. It is a very relevant theory to those people in practice. It is one worth understanding again. And for a lot of people doing the assignment, you will need to identify where you are in the product life cycle. It's easy for some and might be harder for others. So please look at that as well. Now, each of those stages explained. Have a look at this yourself. I'm not going to read this one out bit by bit by bit. It'll make sense when you look at this in context of this figure here. So try and read this part of the textbook together to understand how this may work in practice. Now, the marketing mix strategies you can use for each of the PLCs, and this is important for those people out there trying to figure out what you might want to do in major assignment for a strategy, which you might look at in your execution side of your assignment. Is again, this sets you some scenes here on how you want to do your marketing communications or promotions, pricing, and even placement. So again, consider looking at this slide for a good application of theory to your own individual practical case study you are examining. So let's move away from that hard, dry theory on product itself. Let's move into branding. Now, branding is massive. Most people, their understanding of marketing is on two big theories we have in marketing, which are advertising and branding. So people out there in the world you come across who you walk past in the street, their understanding about marketing in itself is of, as I said, only two theories usually, which is branding and advertising. Maybe price, but hey, look, most of their connection is through advertising and a brand. So a brand can be anything, a name, a term, a symbol, or other unique element of a product which identifies one company's products and sets them apart from the competition itself. It provides the recognition factor that products need to succeed in the marketplace and lets customers build a relationship with the organization. Choosing a brand name. These are the key ingredients to be successful with a brand name. And again, if you look at all the big brands out there in the world, you'll see how the major brands, in fact, do all of these. It should have a positive and favorable connotation. It should appeal to the target market. It may convey product positioning and communicate product benefits. For example, McDonald's, I'm loving it. Must fit the consumer's culture. The logo should have visual impact. Think about Nike there, or any other brand there with visual impact. Pardon me. Must fit legal requirements, so can't break the law, can't be offensive, and it must be memorable. And at the very bottom there, if you want to be global and have a good global brand in 2015 and beyond, you need to pass the 4 easy tests, which is easy to say, easy to spell, easy to read, and of course, easy to remember. The importance of branding itself. Now, the importance of branding is clearly in brand equity, which is the emotional connection people then build up with the brand, which means they value that relationship very highly, above and beyond the price they may actually pay for the product itself. That's really important because that's what a lot of companies build their long-term future around, is that sustainability of not just their competitive advantage, but also their relationship with the consumer. So strong brand equity means customer loyalty, which means quality, which also helps defend a position in the consumer's mind, which other brands then find very difficult to overcome. So it lets you have that long-term perspective of your brand. What makes a brand successful? We can go back to the previous points about what makes a successful brand name. You can see they're very clearly linked here, which is it excels at delivering the benefits customers truly desire. It stays relevant even if times change. It's properly positioned both in the market and the consumer's mind. It's consistent all the time, and what we mean by that, it consistently delivers the same quality of service or benefits all the time. It has ongoing support from the company itself. It's part of the logical brand portfolio, and it uses a variety of marketing activities to build equity. Different branding strategies here you may want to consider. We have family brands, individual brands, manufacturer brands, private label brands, and generic brands. So each of these can be considered a branding strategy in their own right. Again, there's a lot here to cover. Best thing to do is for you to read each of them and apply it to a practical example. For those people in particular doing the final exam option in the course, this is going to be very important because the biggest feedback I get after the exam from people is that they wish they had more case study knowledge. So for you, this is where it starts. Now, today, this second, hit pause, write down some case studies, look at this slide right now. I want you to hit pause and identify with these brands here which case study or examples you can think of for each of those categories. Okay, we also have licensing and co-branding where we can allow our product to be licensed. So they're using the brand name. Coke does this, of course, around the world, where they license out people who own the master franchise in individual countries to make their product under license. So it's bottled under license. Coke has actually produced the concentrate in America, in Atlanta, Georgia, in the United States, and then it's sent all around the world where it's then bottled under license by the company who holds that license in that particular country. And co-branding is another way where we can co-brand our product with someone else's to add even more value to the finished product. And a good example, if you think about it on that, is laptops or computers where they add Intel chips. Usually they put that added to the brand name of that computer, and we have a more valuable package in the consumer's mind than just one of those brands by themselves. Packaging, do not forget packaging. It is very important and can add, it's a very cheap way of making a critical difference in your marketing. Usually we can get the consumer's attention with it. It helps with promotion by communicating product benefits and reinforcing any promotional attributes we've talked about or told the market about. It's easy brand recognition. Of course, physical protection of the product itself is very important and can provide additional benefits such as a special lid, which might be childproof, for example. So this is all important as well when it comes to product. Don't overlook packaging. Some people forget about packaging, and yet it can be an important difference in your product category. This is a great slide to look at on how we have different attributes here of how a package can be used as part of a product strategy by a brand. It's a great one to look at, figure 8.9, to understand how companies make us look at certain things on a package and not others. And again, ask yourself that question: what things can you recall about a certain product because of its packaging, and what things can't you recall about a certain product, again, because of the packaging? Something important to look at and be a practical case study maybe in the week you watch this video. And linked into packaging is labeling. It's becoming more important nowadays in some categories like food, where we're putting up nutritional information, which then companies are now using as part of their strategy overall to say they're more healthy than other products out there in the marketplace. Okay, well, that's it for this lecture. I've covered all the major points here. Just understand about product concept itself, explain how products are classified. My phone's ringing, oops. Explain the importance of new products and describe how companies develop them. understand the different types of innovations, pardon my phone, explain the adoption and diffusion processes, understand the different phases of product planning, understand how companies understand the different types of innovations, sorry about that pause, explain the adoption and diffusion processes, understand the different phases of product planning, understand how companies manage their products through the various stages of the product life cycle, and explain the roles that branding, packaging, and labeling play in creating product identity. That's it for this week. That's it for this chapter of the textbook. It's been a big one. You need a break. Go and have a cup of tea and a good lie down. And I'll be back soon to talk about the next topic in this fabulous semester of marketing. This is Dr. Andrew Hughes saying goodbye for now from floor 109 of the ANU Research School of Management here in downtown Canberra. See you next time.